Hello everyone. Today is the 6th of January 2026. I hope you guys are having a fantastic new year so far. So, when it comes to pro-life media, there's a small amount of them existing. And what's sad is when you compare the amount of pro-life media existing to the amount of pro-choice media existing, pro-choice media towers over the pro-life media molehill. Things definitely need to change. I have no problem with protesting in politics. They are beneficial. However, without that third leg of culture, I feel like things are going to be much more bothersome in the near future. Culture is imperative. Culture is upstream from politics. I'm sure some of you may have heard this statement, and it is true. Obviously, you don't have to identify as a culture warrior to engage in creating pro-life culture because when it comes to proponents of pro-choice media or even pro-abortion media, guess what? They don't identify as culture warriors, and they are winning this side of the culture war. So, yeah, obviously, when it comes to creating pro-life media, there are various ways to go about it, and it's not a one-way street. There is no rule that indicates that we only have to be religious or we have to be overtly religious, and there's no rule that indicates that we only have to be for a niche audience. Well, it really depends on the context of your work. For example, there are some video games out there that really do well because of a niche audience. And if it were to go mainstream, then they would have to really shave off all of their wonderful elements such as fan service. So, yeah, things are beneficial when it's niche at times, but also, it doesn't mean that all pro-life media has to be niche. So when it comes to expressing yourselves, remember there are various pathways to follow, and you can start off with having, okay, let's just say you want your media to be about abortion. The topic is abortion. It's going to be heavy right in your face, and obviously many people will engage with it if it's written really well. You can have a political satire. You can have something that's serious. You can even have you can even have um, well, some kind of action show. Oh, I don't know, any genre really. Express yourselves with the genres. Really, you don't have to sit with slice of life. You can really, go out there and reach the stars, as the saying goes, because all genres can be utilized properly for your messaging. And remember that even if you are focusing on the theme of why abortion is wrong, um, you have to give your characters depth. You have to give your characters emotions. And that's the thing. If you have something that's just strawmanning people or strawmanning all the characters, it's not going to be fun, you know? And flaws for characters don't have to specifically be hypocritical flaws. It can be like smaller things as well. Just experiment with the stories. Then, of course, let's just say you're not working on something that's explicitly pro-life. Maybe the entire story is about, I don't know, maybe the story is about ninjas, or I don't know. I'm just spitballing over here, but let's just say it's about ninjas. And then you can have a character arc for one of the characters, or even the protagonist, that goes through his stance on abortion. It's something small. It's something that's just happens in the series. Obviously, obviously, that's an interesting way of going about it. But I would personally say that will obviously catch a lot of people off guard, as much as you're not putting so much emphasis on abortion, you're just having it for one character arc. A lot of your established audience who will just get this sudden surprise of it will feel alienated at times. So I personally believe that if you're going to have something that's pro-life, even if it's going to have one character arc about it, um, you have to at least, you could say, foreshadow it. At least a small foreshadowing will do. So you know what, you can say, okay, this isn't coming out of nowhere. Because here's the thing: when it comes to like people randomly throwing politics in every piece of media, it gets aggravating, really. No one likes that, even if they agree with a certain message. Well, you could say most people don't like that. So I would say if you're going to have a small character arc about that, at least foreshadow it towards the beginning arcs, and then you can have your character arc. Don't forget allegories. Allegories are also good, and there are various ways to go about allegories. Okay, and just keep thinking about it. And depending on the genre, allegories are much more better, in my opinion, to reach a broader audience. And obviously, it'll be less controversial. And of course, the small ways of expressing yourselves is subtlety. Maybe a character will have a pro-life pin, or a pro-life poster, or a pro-life sticker on his or her laptop. Something small like that. Or language. For example, well, depending on the context, really, you can say she conceived, or when I was conceived. Language matters. Even when the subject is about something else, language does matter. And of course, there's another subtle way, having things much more in the background. For example, let's just say you have a character that's running from some hooligan. The character is running on the streets. It's a hectic scene. The character is just sprinting, stretching his or her energy to its limit, and the character runs past, a couple of grocery stores, a couple of, I don't know, various types of stores, really, and then the character also runs past a pregnancy center. It can be wedged in the background, no big deal, just there, and there you go. That's an extreme subtle way. Obviously, obviously, I'm sure that would be very interesting to put in a piece of media. And of course, let's move on to the next thing, creating. It's going to be expensive to create pro-life media. One of the biggest pieces of pro-life media that came out around 6 or 7 years ago. No, I'm not making the joke, but I mean it. Like 2019. Wait, was it 6 or 7 years ago? Look, I'm horrible when it comes to counting. So yeah, I'm just going to say 6 or 7 years. We had the movie Unplanned. And I remember when this movie came out, it drummed up some controversy. And obviously, a lot of people never liked this airing in certain cinemas. Obviously, a lot of people were disappointed with the 15 age limit. Well, the age beginning to watch this movie. Obviously, a lot of controversies were stirred after. Plenty of people are obviously bitter about this movie, and it's not because it's just a cheap movie, but it's because it has the pro-life message. And here's the thing, it's based on someone's life, yet some people are still angry about it. Now, obviously, having biopics, biographies about people that are pro-life, that's fine, that's fantastic. But of course, fiction is good too. Fiction is really good. And if you're going to try to have something that's overtly pro-life, like the entire theme is about abortion and why it's wrong and stuff like that, and it's like, obviously you're going to struggle when it comes to distributing it, depending on where you distribute it. Like a theatrical movie, it's not going to do well because controversies will be stirred. And then you also have certain streaming sites that won't house this media, which will be really sad. So you have to find various other ways to go about it. So if you have more allegory stories, obviously it'll easily slip by through theaters. And I'm just speaking as if it's so easy. Obviously, it's going to cost a lot. And yeah, there are cheaper ways to go about creating pro-life media. Comic books, novels, these are pretty easy to do when compared to TV shows and movies. However, TV shows and movies are pretty cool to have as well. And also video games. Now, I don't think everything needs to be political. I have to say this. I should have said this in the beginning. Not everything has to be political. Not everything has to just be about something that's outside our world. I'm pretty much okay with escapism. Escapism is imperative. However, these days there are plenty of media that has politics in it, and I feel like obviously you have to compete with it. at least have a couple of media that competes with what's going on right now. And um, having a pro-life video game, that would be interesting. And there are various ways to go about it. And obviously it's going to be expensive, but the cheapest form of a video game would be a visual novel, because obviously they require less financial support from you. It's pretty easy to make compared to other video game forms. It's pretty fun in my opinion. So there you go. Anyways, this video could have been better if it was scripted, but I'm just expressing myself from the heart. So tell me your thoughts. Now, I just want to, say this again. When it comes to entertainment, really, I am someone who is okay with with escapism. I'm fine with escapism. We need escapism. However, there's no problem with having pro-life media existing. There's no problem with that. But obviously, I think that when there's such an overflow of one thing, it doesn't mean that we only have to react with politics. Escapism is a must. So don't be discouraged as well to make something just fully escapist. Well, that's a topic for a different video, really. But still, escapism is required these days. And, everything just gets all about politics, all about various topics, and then it becomes kind of boring at times, right? But still, I'm just saying this video is imperative, because obviously when it comes to culture, we have to express ourselves. We can't just sit down and just let things not happen. We have to be taking the steps forward to make change. But I also understand that obviously not everything has to be about this. Sometimes we just want to relax, not care about anything, and just focus on something that's different. Escapism. So yeah, I don't even know why I'm wedging this escapism thing in. Um, anyways, thanks so much for watching this video. It's going to be a cringe video to edit. Bye-bye.